Dan, I want to start with you, and this is the part I can't figure out. I know there's a view that the market's not really looking at the election or won't look at the election until post-Labor Day. But what I can understand is between the possibility of a delay in the votes, which I think is a real risk, not necessarily that there are going to be fraudulent votes, but that there'll be a delay in terms of when we actually get this news. And frankly, the polls that would suggest that Biden would win today, that to the degree there's a conventional wisdom that would somehow be bad for the market, it's not reflected. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, that's a great point, Andrew. And I do see investors buying some volatility protection around the election for the idea of not knowing who the winner is going to be. There's also a belief that Biden could win and not raise taxes. And if that's the case, then much of the risk won't be there. And there is also a possibility that Biden could win and the Republicans keep the Senate. Under that scenario, you get all the economic benefits of better international trade policy without the tax increases as well. And that's a pretty bullish scenario. So I think we need more time to sort that out as investors. And those Senate races really start to break in late September, early October. And that's why you've historically seen the equity market not really respond till post-Labor Day. But really in October, the equity market's going to turn on the Senate elections.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask Jim. Jim, if you think the market's going to turn, you would think that the market would want to turn in advance of it. You'd think the market would be more efficient about this then.
Right. I thought the theory here was the markets were these massive calculating engines, taking every bit of information and incorporating into stock prices. I would think that would be happening. Maybe the reason markets aren't freaking out is because they're just not that scared. Listen, Biden raised corporate taxes. What's he talking about? Taking it to 28%. That's a lot what the Obama administration was talking about. Tim Geithner. Maybe I personally think that's 28 percentage points too high, but I just don't think that's a terrifying situation for markets. He apparently does not want to do all these millionaire surtaxes. So listen, would I prefer lower taxation to higher taxation? Sure, but maybe the Biden agenda just isn't as terrifying as some on Wall Street might have thought had they heard about this a year ago.
Andrew, let me just make one point on this.
Yep.
It's not about the overall stock market level at this point. It's about individual stocks. So companies that are facing greater regulation, they're already pricing in because Biden can make those changes without any type of congressional change. Those are for-profit prisons, for-profit education, student lenders, sort of the low-hanging fruit of this. As you get deeper into the election, then it begins to impact tax reform, defense spending. And on tax reform, you're talking about an 11% decline to EPS. So it is pretty significant, despite what Jim is saying. And the market will have to discount it. The market's just not convinced that that's going to happen. If the market changes its mind on that, then you will start to see downgrades to companies' earnings.
Well, listen. If you're worried about Biden pulverizing some sector, it certainly doesn't look like tech stocks think that they are going to regulate them to death. As they continue to rise.
Correct. It's other Jim, sectors where that regulation is pricing in.
Right. Jim, let me ask you this. Put all the politics aside. One of the things that's terrifying, no matter who wins, is that I think in truth it may take several days, if not much longer, maybe even weeks, to find out the results, given all that's happened. And clearly, you have in the president somebody who's raising questions about the veracity of what those results are going to be. How terrifying is that for the markets and the economy?
Listen, I think the consensus is that this election cannot be delayed, will not be delayed. Obviously, listen, I think that's by far the scarier mark, because then at some point we begin to look like a total banana republic and we're not a democracy anymore. Now, not knowing the result, I think it helps a little bit that we've been through this. I mean, we were through this in 2000. It was not an enjoyable time for most Americans, since we kind of didn't know what was happening, and the whole process sort of looked, terrible. But we got through it. The Republic stood. We're fine. So I think if we had no previous, fairly recent idea of what that would look like, it might be a lot scarier.